organized labor. So is labor in the house? Yes! Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here and being involved, and for your commitment to our party, to making sure that Donald Trump is a one-term president. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Vice Chairs. Thank you, leadership here in the county. And thank you to every single volunteer out there who has been pounding the pavement and working very hard, because that's what we all need to do. And I'm so grateful for everything that all of you have done. I'm so proud to represent you as the Congresswoman for District 1, and I'm running for re-election. So thank you. Thank you for making me one of the first 2 Native American women ever elected to Congress in our country's history. In Washington, D.C., I'm proud to give voice to the issues that we all care about: our environment, that's right, bigger paychecks, health care and affordable medication, ending corruption in our government. My story is not unlike many New Mexicans' story. I grew up in a military family where my dad worked every day with a mission to protect our country, while my mom ensured we did our schoolwork and at the same time taught us our Pueblo culture, which meant teaching me the value of community. My grandparents, whose ancestors passed down our great New Mexico agricultural tradition, had no choice but to move our family into the modern era. They held fast to our traditions in spite of the reckless federal government policies meant to destroy us. They worked hard for nearly half a century on the railroad, bought a house, had retirement income and health care. And that's what we want for all of us. Like you, I love my state. And it was clear to me after the 2018 election that New Mexicans want Democrats to lead. All of you did an amazing job electing Democrats for every single statewide office, so give yourselves a pat on the back, and let's do it again in 2020. I am humbled by the support I've received from all of you in the work that House Democrats are leading on for the people, and I'm honored to serve alongside the largest class of women ever elected to Congress. This made celebrating the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment so much more memorable. In solidarity, Democratic women wore white for the 2019 State of the Union address. But we also spoke out for the women of color who couldn't vote in 1919. African Americans in the South, Asian Americans, Hispanics who have dealt with every form of intimidation and racial injustice, and right here in New Mexico, Native Americans who did not have the right to vote in state elections until 1948. People of color and those with disabilities have had to endure many obstacles just to have a voice in our politics. We thought we had turned the page on discrimination until the 2016 election happened. I hear you, I see you, and I am fighting for all of you. And it's up to us to fight to end discrimination. It's on us to win in 2020 and move our values of fairness and equality forward for everyone who calls the United States home. In 2019, House Democrats managed the passage of over 400 pieces of legislation. The Paycheck Fairness Act, the Equality Act, the Safe Banking Act of 2019, the Violence Against Women Act reauthorization, the Climate Action Now Act, legislation that will keep our kids safer from gun violence, H.R. 1, the For the People Act, which includes my bill on same-day voter registration. the Elijah E. Cummings Lower Drug Costs Now Act, and we passed a resolution to extend the deadline for the Equal Rights Amendment. Yes, we did that and more, and we impeached the president. Of office, he committed a crime by asking a foreign government to help him win re-election. Yes, it's shameful, and that's why we are going to win the White House in 2020. As Vice Chair of the Natural Resources Committee and Chair of the Subcommittee on National Parks, Forests, and Public Lands, I wake up every day with a fear that gnaws at my conscience. And that is the effects of climate change. How this crisis wreaks havoc on global communities who can least afford to adapt. The sad fact is that we have a president who is intent on selling off our public lands to his friends for fracking and drilling. We have a president who has used his power to cut the size of Bears Ears National Monument by 85%. And the size of Grand Staircase Escalante by half. These two sacred sites, the ancestral homelands of the Pueblo people, my people, are now open to leases and desecration by extractive industries, which will exacerbate climate change and destroy countless sacred sites and erase our history. This administration, which is stacked with gas, oil, and coal insiders, has stopped important climate change research and actively promotes the denial of climate change. We must recognize the urgent need to move our country to a renewable energy economy. In spite of the immoral acts of this president and his administration toward our environment, the House passed bipartisan legislation to protect a 10-mile radius around our beloved Chaco Canyon from gas and oil drilling. The bill is currently in the Senate, and I encourage all of you to support its passage. In addition to making climate change and protection of our environment our #1 issue, I've also used my voice to introduce a universal child care bill that will tax billionaires to pay for a network of child care options that would be available to every family and give child care workers a raise. I'm working to find solutions to the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women. This crisis is 500 years in the making and will take tremendous effort to unravel its deadly tentacles in many states and Indian nations across our country. A good start to protecting all women from violence would be to pass the bipartisan Violence Against Women Act reauthorization out of the Senate. Right now, the NRA and Moscow Mitch are holding Republican senators hostage, and they are gladly giving in, and you can guess why. A Republican version of VAWA also threatens tribal sovereignty, and we all will have something to say about that blatant miscarriage of justice in the 2020 election. And after we win back the Senate and the presidency, immigrant communities can stop living in fear. We'll ensure that parents can afford insulin for their sick children, that every single American can go to a doctor when they're sick. We can raise the minimum wage to give workers and labor unions the respect and peace of mind they deserve. I have a broad vision of ensuring that I fight for every single piece of legislation that Democrats have moved forward in this Congress and other big structural change like Medicare for all, a national infrastructure plan, and a Green New Deal. I have witnessed actions that I never thought possible by a president of the United States. And those actions, coupled with a brutal contempt for our environment and the most dangerous policies that have ripped families apart based only on their country of origin or religious beliefs. The president's disdain for decency and respect of human rights in our institutions are untenable. And I urge every single one of us to devote every possible resource to electing a president who reflects the values that define us. Those values instilled in us by our parents and grandparents, the values that guide our principled existence and demand that we care about our whole communities, not just ourselves, that we give our children every opportunity so they can find success, the values that require us to protect and defend the land that is everything because it has sustained us for this long. That's why we must be united in defeating Donald Trump. I know you will choose a candidate in the primary. There are a few to choose from. Work your heart out for that candidate and help us break GOTV records in the primary by getting as many people as we can to the polls. Madam County Clerk. But when we have a nominee, we have one ballot, a Democratic ballot, and we must all support each and every one of those candidates. I have signed the indivisible pledge, and I will do all I can to ensure that Trump is a one-term president. Thank you. So I'm asking all of you to dig deep and don't stop until election night in November. Knock doors, phone bank, donate to candidates if you can. Stand up and show up. Our children, our students, our LGBTQ community, our working families, our labor unions are counting on all of us. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the campaign trail.